Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Inspire View Series 2017. My name is Cherrise Boucher, and I am a momentum strategy coach and basically a get shit doner. So this series, if you are new to it, welcome. And if you have watched them before, welcome back. The whole idea behind this series was to share inspiring stories to help you get motivated and inspired to follow your passion. All the women that I've talked to over the past 2.5 years have had amazing stories and have been truly inspiring to me personally. And it's been such a pleasure to connect with them. And friendships have formed for sure, especially in the case of Kelly, who second time on the series. The first time was a little surprise for Kelly that it was video.
I will never, like, wow. I'm like, oh, messy bun and hoodie. This is not what I'm trying to put out there.
It's the real Kelly. So we'll have two versions.
Well, and I've come full circle because now I don't really care. I just have dressed up already because I had to go into my kid's school.
Oh, well, there we go.
But then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get interviewed. I have to be all dressed up.
Yeah, I usually, like now, I've got sweatpants on and a decent top.
Exactly.
That's how we roll.
That's how we rock it.
Yes. Absolutely. No sense in getting fully dressed for this sort of thing.
I haven't worn a bra in like 15 minutes. Really?
That's awesome. So let me introduce you officially before we continue chatting on, because we know we both can do this forever and ever. Kelly Caldwell is a serial entrepreneur, having been self-employed since the tender age of 12. I can relate to this a little bit. I don't think I've shared the story, but I won't now. When she decided to sell Redwing Shoes to her farm family friends. So that was a dismal failure. Yes. She didn't give up and has since successfully owned and operated 3 businesses since then. She has now come back to her first love of books and incorporated all she knows about business into the mix, which is awesome. With more than 25 years of entrepreneurship behind her, she constantly strives to create business connections that turn into friendships, and to publish books that make a difference in the world. And that she does. So welcome back, Kelly.
Thank you. I love your series. I loved it from the first time I saw it, and it's a ton of fun to be on here with you. So thanks.
That's because we're totally chill. Like, it's like whatever goes. Not stuffy with this, because stuffy's not fun.
Stuffy is not me. I've tried this with medications to manage that type of life, so it doesn't work for me.
No, I totally agree.
No, it doesn't work.
So Kelly and I have become friends, virtual friends, I guess. Someday, hopefully, we'll meet in person, which will be fabulous. But we met in a mastermind. So there is massive value in connecting with people, other entrepreneurs, because we often are like solo out there, but connecting online is huge.
I would say it's priceless. I would say it's, if you can only invest in something, invest in that, making those connections and getting together with a group of women that you can really get to know. And that's a one-on-one, and super important.
It really is, because sometimes you just need to vent.
Yeah. And I'm an introvert. I mean, like, I have the t-shirt and everything. I'm totally an introvert, but still those connections and having somebody you can say, my sales page went live today and I have 10,000 people waiting. Don't we all wish? And it crashed. I'm going to go, jump off a creek now.
Right.
It's good to have people that get what you're saying, because our significant others don't always. I sort of get this glazed over look from my husband. He's like, I have no clue what you're saying. It's okay. Just stand there and listen. Okay.
Exactly. Right.
It's better to have somebody you can call and talk to in real life.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Even if it's totally unrelated, because we really have built friendships on personal levels with people like we have, where we can talk about other stuff, which is invaluable. Yeah. But anyway, now that we've gotten that bit out of the way, the importance of connecting if you're an entrepreneur, let's talk about your whole publishing. She's a boutique publisher. So it's awesome because it's a very personal, hands-on approach to doing it, and it's not like you're not a number, and your book isn't just like shoved through this. There's a very personal interaction that goes with it. And she, of course, also the publisher of these two books that I contributed to last year, which I have shared before was totally not on my radar to do. It's one of those saying yes to opportunities kinds of things and see what happens. And that has been awesome experience. Awesome. And I'm sure there'll be more.
The collaborative projects have been a lot of fun. As an introvert, they've been a little challenging for me to like juggle that group dynamic, but huge value for me to have participated in those. And we have another book coming out in the summer that we're still accepting authors for. So if anybody out here is listening, prior to probably June of 2017, then you probably better drop me a line.
Yeah. And what's the topic of this one?
Organization and time management. Because I heard, the wonderful thing about being an entrepreneur is you don't have to have an office schedule. You can work whenever you want. Well, me.
Kind of, sort of.
Sort of. And I have seen this in the business owners that I coach through my publishing company. You really do need structure. Without structure, you're not going to gravitate towards, doing your invoices once a week or managing how much time you spend on social media. It's going to be lopsided if you don't get a real good view of how much time you spend and how much you need to. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I always tell clients you have to have two hats, your boss hat and your employee hat. Exactly. And you have to treat yourself both ways. Yes. You have to like flip a switch in your brain that says, okay, now if I'm answering to the boss, what do I have to do? Because you really do have to do it like if you were working for somebody else, like you have to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. Which to me, that was no big deal. And that just meant that I worked 24/7. I didn't get anything done. It's that I was so overwhelmed that because I literally woke up in the morning to check my Facebook notifications and went to sleep with the phone in my hand, because social media is where I get all of my clients. That's how I make connections, like most online entrepreneurs do. Mm-hmm. So for me, setting that structure there was not a boundary so much as it was a safe place for me to put my boss hat on and work, and then I could quit and have this other life. And that was a big thing for me. Huge. Made me love my business again.
Yeah. It's important. So this is going to be a great collaboration book.
I'm excited about this one. Yeah.
Insight from different people. And how many authors are going to be in this one?
I'm looking for 20 this time. Looking for short little bits, kind of keeping in mind the ideal reader for this book is somebody who's probably struggling with time management and organization. So we're going to have the chapters will be shorter and little bite-sized pieces, kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul. Mm-hmm. Little pieces of tips and tools for people to use for organization and time management.
Yeah. Awesome topic. Much needed for entrepreneurial
and real deal stuff. Like, I can read the KonMari method forever, but I'm not likely to take 3 days and empty everything out of my house to do that. I need stuff that works for a mom with kids in the house, teenagers. And then, so that's really what we're going for, how to implement that and improve that area of your life and your business in small pieces.
Yeah, I love that because it's for most of us that I know, we have families, we're not just on our own doing our own thing. Life happens and we have to deal with certain things that come up in life.
Towels and horses get out.
Right. So it's important to know. I think the structure around the organization of your business is really important, and I talk a lot about that too. That way, you build in cushions so that you're allowed.
Yeah, the systems that you have are like if you're watching me right now and you haven't worked with Cherrise, you need to do that because suddenly I went from having this huge pile of stuff to I see how she does this. It's prioritizing and making lists, but I was absolutely unable to do that for myself the first time. There's too much floating around there. I didn't even know where to start.
Yeah, it is difficult until you see the process
Yep.
and work through it, and then it's a tool you can use forever.
Exactly.
Yes. So, okay. You may have been born with a love of books, but you were not born as a publisher. And
No.
like, how does this even happen? Like, I know for a fact, like, this is very different than what you did
Yes.
previously.
It is
So,
what I did previously. Well, I was born a farmer's daughter, and I remember riding on the tractor with my dad saying, I'm going to build a house right over there in that hayfield and live here forever. And that didn't happen. Yeah, that did not happen at all. After a 15-year marriage, I got divorced, went back to college, got my degree as a certified midwife, and had an independent practice for close to 10 years. Yeah, delivered babies at home and in clinic. And being in solo practice in any sort of medical field is just really fatiguing. And so I had just a plethora of issues come up with my health that accumulated in breast cancer 3 years ago this spring. And I said, I can't keep this up. So I looked for a partner. I ended up selling that business and just taking some time off to heal. And then I said to myself, I'm not that woman. I have never been that woman like my mom who can, keep the house, drive the kids around, have a book club maybe, and that's her life. I've always needed to feel like I'm creating something or helping, making a difference. So when I went looking for that, I'm like, well, I can be a health coach. I can do that online. I have all the background. I have the knowledge. I'll do that. Dismal failure. I mean, colossal failure. Crash failure. I gave it a year and I made $163 that year after my expenses. And not just the money. I mean, I dreaded my phone calls. I just didn't love it. So I stopped that and I said, what would I do if money wasn't an issue? Right. I think I watched a TED talk and that was the question. I need to remember who that was because I think it was, I can't remember her name. I will have to tell you her name.
okay.
She said, what would you do for a living if you didn't have to make any money? And I said, well, I just lay around and read books all day. But I would like to read books that are good books because publishers really give, especially still, women written books, feminine centered books. They just have a hard time getting published. I would read those books. I'm like, well, I would actually publish books, but that's a huge deal. I mean, I can't afford to buy a publishing company. So I started looking, and with the advent of self-publishing and all the platforms out there for publishing your own ebooks, it turns out that it's really not that difficult. Well, let me back up. It's not impossible to start your own paperback, hardback, actual publishing company. So that's what I decided to do. I said, if I don't make a dime, I'm still going to have some fun and it'll be okay. And yeah, it has turned out okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that would seem kind of overwhelming because I think what most of us think is traditional publishing houses.
Yeah.
So we're thinking big, we're thinking like
20
lots
of employees and yeah, exactly. And so I have 4 people who work for me right now. But it's all virtual. So all people that do editing and I do most of the design work myself because I found that I really enjoy the design work and the art side of that. So I do that all myself. I do the content editing myself. So the idea read, I do that. And like you said, it's very personalized. I call it a high touch environment here. So I take 3 new authors a month. So I'll never be publishing, the average publishing house publishes between 5 and 10 books a week.
That would be like crazy.
Right, exactly. I don't ever want you to call an 800 number and wait on hold for someone to answer your question. That's never going to happen here. As long as I own Scorpio Press, you're going to get me and me only.
Yeah, I love that. I love the personal touch.
Yeah, I like relationships. I like building. And oh my goodness, I have met some of the most phenomenal people. I feel so humbled that I get to I'm like fangirl because these women are writing shit that people don't say. They're writing things that we all think but haven't been put out there to the public. They're really doing things to change the paradigm of our culture. And I just could not be more thrilled.
I think it's fantastic. And it gives, I think it opens up a door to so many people who are thinking, oh God, I could never write a book, but you can, if you've got the story and you're the willingness to tell it.
Yeah. If you want to tell the story, on my YouTube channel, you don't even have to like to type to write a book. You can do word to text. The Google platform works really well for free, or you can just do audio. I'm working on a book right now where the author recorded audio, each chapter on her commute. She recorded.
Oh, wow.
And she just told her story, and and we're having it transcribed, and then we'll edit that as the rough draft. So there are a million ways to make it happen. And I'm one of those, everything's figure outable.
Yeah.
Unless you've been, tossed off a bridge or shot in the face, everything is figure outable. We can figure something out of it. Nothing's a catastrophe. So, yeah.
I think that's wonderful to point out, because I have had clients too that, content creation is like a big buzzword in the coaching industry and in entrepreneurship, because you have to get yourself out there. Right. But I've had clients who are like, oh my God, like I hate writing. I'm like, do you like to talk? Because you can talk and it can be transcribed.
Right.
So that's awesome. Like you don't have to type it out, and somebody can take your words and make them sound good. Because
I just pinned something over on Pinterest that said there is no limit to how rough your rough draft can be. So if you can get the idea out, it does not matter. That's what you have an editor for. It doesn't matter. You really don't have to pour and sweat over that. It's not going to be printed the way you send it the first time.
Right.
There are on average 4 or 5 rounds of edits. I try to get it done in 3, but usually we're at 4 rounds of edits between rough draft and actually what we publish. So there's lots of times to get it all perfect and shiny, and that's what I do.
Yeah, and if you ever read about any big name authors, and they share that side of it, like edits could go on for years for some of them, like it's a very
the bigger the publishing company is, the more likely that process is to take longer. A couple of years is pretty average from your first draft to the finished product.
Yeah. So it's nice to get it out there, and also to know that even though it's out there, because so once I've written it and it's done, I don't read what I wrote again, because I want to change it every time I read it.
Yeah.
So I stop. Like I have not read either of those chapters again, because I always think of something else to change.
Every author does that.
Yeah. So, but Stephen King, one of my favorites.
No, exactly.
We grew up in the same state, so I feel a little kinship to him. But he has said in a recent book that I read of his, actually, I think it's a short story book, like where he's compiled some of his different stories. And he said some of them you may have read before, but basically, I think he said, and I'm totally paraphrasing what I think I remember that he wrote, was that, until I'm dead, the story is not done.
Yeah.
So he goes back and he'll take something he wrote, could be 25 years ago or something, but there was more that wanted to come out, a different ending or a different aspect of it. So just because you wrote it once and you were nervous about it not being perfect.
Yeah.
There is no perfect.
There is no perfect.
You can change it.
Yeah. And that's the other perk to self-publishing, which is it's technically what you're doing when you hire Scorpio Press. Yes, we put our imprint on it. And yes, we do all the technical stuff so you don't have to, but you own that book forever. You can go in and change the manuscript if you want it changed. You can put a new cover on it to see if it sells better. Those are all things that don't get to happen with the traditional publishing contract. Those decisions are all up to the publisher. And if it doesn't sell well right out of the gate, it probably is going to just die because they own the rights. That you might have a 30-year clause that they'll give you the rights back, or you might be able to buy them back to do what you want. But once you sign with a traditional publisher, your story belongs to them. And go do all those choices about marketing and, like I said, book cover or any changes you want to make. That's done and over.
Wow. Yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a thing, especially if somebody is concerned about wanting to edit in the future.
Right. Or, revised editions are few and far between because it's costly, and they don't do as well in the big marketplace as they do for independent authors. They do much better for independent authors than they do for the big time people. Yeah.
Right. And I know that is a service that you have as well for self-published authors, whether they've self-published literally like they did it themselves, or for others that of the cover design, because I've seen you post about that just tweaking the cover can reignite the interest in your book.
I call it a makeover for your book. So I read your book, then we do a keyword optimization for the contents, and we do a new book cover. And on average, that's going to increase your sales about 40%. You can get a big jump right after it re-releases, but you're going to get about 40% more sales over the next quarter. Because I really do my homework for you. And the point of being self-published is you're hoping to make money as a writer. And you do not want a traditional contract with a publisher if you want to make money as a writer. It is just insane unless you sell millions of copies. And, unless you're Elizabeth Gilbert or Brene Brown or one of the big ones, you're not going to make any money as a writer. And let me tell you, they all wish they made $4 to $5 a copy versus the 20 or 30 cents they might end up with.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's it.
It's really, really sad. It's very rare for a first-time author to get a contract with an advance. And that advance isn't like a bonus. It's paid on the bet that your book will sell so many copies. Usually, say a $10,000 advance will say, for 100,000 copies, you don't get any more. Once it gets over 100,000 copies, you start getting your royalty, which is it's less than $1. I've never seen a $15 retail book for an author come back at $1 profit ever.
Wow.
Yeah. And even after Amazon, Kobo, and all the places distribution, you end up with about 50%, 40 to 50% of the retail in your pocket. So it's a great income stream. It's a great residual income stream. If you launch it well and it goes well and it's reviewed well and you do your homework in the beginning, that book can have a life, and you can get a check from Amazon and Barnes & Noble once a quarter for your life. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And it's nice to, as an author, like it's not like one and done, like you just put it out there to be aware of marketing. And I know you talk a bit about that too in your services, like how to market your book. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can't just go, here it is.
It is, and then that's that. Because, I saw a statistic the other day that of your Facebook posts, about 10% of the people that are on your friends list will see that. Yeah. So that means you have to post something 10 times technically to cover everyone on your friends list. And I think that's pretty good. That's actually pretty good. That's from Social Media Examiner, and they know their numbers. So when you say, I have a book out, yay, about 10 out of 100 people are going to see that post.
Wow.
And then if you add the fact that it takes 3 impressions to get someone to click and buy, you have to talk about your book a lot of times.
Yeah, that's good, because we all get that feeling like we're over posting stuff. Like you don't want your personal news feed, your own page to be like the same thing over and over and over and over again.
You don't want to say, please go buy my book. Hey, have you bought my book? Can you go buy my book? You don't want to do that 300 times. But you know what?
It's like mom.
Exactly. Mom. Will hide you from their feed. That is annoying and obnoxious. I think that's rude. Like you wouldn't do that in a room full of people. Don't do it on your social media feeds.
Right.
But say out of 3, this is one of the things that we do in my marketing for authors group. We do, I tell them to do, out of 3 posts, one of those will be actually asking for the sale. The other 2 are going to be story. So what inspired you? Where were when you wrote it? What was going on when you wrote it? Were you sick when you were writing? Did someone in your family die when you were writing? What did it bring up? Are you writing a second book? There are lots of stories that go with that period of time that you were writing. And there's just a lot, people want to hear that stuff. as an introvert, I've said for years, we live in a voyeuristic society. Everybody wants to see and watch and do everything. But I think that's my perspective as an introvert and a very private person. The reality is most people want to get to know you better. And that's one way that you can do it, through your story.
They do. And we all have a story, whether we think we do or not, because
yes, we do.
I'm right there, because this is how I personally feel. You know, shit happens, you deal with it, you go through your life, you bury some, you deal with some, and it's like, whatever, it's your daily life, it happened, whatever. But if you talk to somebody else about it, they're like, oh my God, like that is so inspiring or something. Right. You're like, what? Like, I know. That was a shitstorm of a mess I had to deal with.
I know. My own book, my memoir, if you will, of my childhood and the first years of my adulthood is coming out this summer. And
I know you've been working on this for a while.
I have been working at it for a while, and the rough draft was done about 6 months ago. And it was like people do not want to, and I was raised, you don't put your dirty laundry on the line. You know, you don't do that.
Right.
And so that's part of why I had so many issues as an adult. But it's also part of what's made it difficult for me to let go of that story. Because when I talk one-on-one to women, they're like, oh, you have to tell people that you made it through this or that or whatever it was. So that's what facilitated my story. And that's what I tell people. It matters. What you've gone through and your experiences, there's a ripple effect to everything that happens. None of us live in a vacuum.
Right.
Something that happened to me and how I coped with it, and just hearing that someone else felt the same way as you when you're going through it, it's priceless. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean, there are, a handful of really popular topics.
No.
Well, popular, unpopular, like things are like, oh my God, like there's 50 million books about that already, So if somebody comes to you and says, it's just another story of
somebody's already written about this, whatever. And no, someone has, but you're not someone.
Right.
And there are no two stories alike. There really aren't.
No, I agree. Even though, I know that there's a lot of, it's resistance in my own thing for telling anything, because and you don't even know how to say it. You're like, are you going to take a bitchy stance towards what happened? Is it going to be a big gripe session? Like, how is it going to come out of you? I think that's a big struggle that a lot of people have. Like, how do you even do this? Or can you flip it into like a fiction based on something, which may be an easier approach for some people.
An easier approach. And I think objectivity is really important when you're writing about something that's really emotional for you. I do think you have to reach a point where you can tell the story and it doesn't make you cry anymore. Mm-hmm. That's how you know that that it's time for you to tell a story. Because if you're still in it and it's still raw, that's a really hard place to start to share, because you don't have objectivity and you can't really decide how you want it to sound, and all those strategic questions. You're not in a place where you're able to make those decisions.
Great tip. Yeah, because that could be what's holding people back is that emotion, but they know that they want to share it. Yep. But if they can get to the point.
2 things held me back from writing my book. The first one, the first one was I did not want to hurt my family. I didn't want my mom to feel like my childhood was terrible or I resent it. I don't. I didn't want her to feel that way. And then the second thing is I would walk by those 99-cent book bins at Barnes & Noble, where
I love those.
Yeah, except I kept thinking, this is so insane, but just to let you know that every author has this fear of not putting their story out. And this was mine. One was, didn't want to hurt my family. I love my family. The second one was, I didn't want to end up in the loser's bench box of 99-cent books that they cannot unload fast enough. I pictured my book there. I'm like, I cannot. No, I can't do it. Isn't that crazy?
That's funny. Like, I don't think I would have thought, because you know what I think about that? I think the 99-cent bin could get your book out to more people.
I know. That's what my husband said. When I finally said it out loud, he's like, babe, that just means more people will buy it.
Right.
I'm like, wait,
Like I pick up books at the Dollar Tree.
Right.
You know, if I find good books there. There was a James Van Prague book that I picked up there, you know?
I hadn't even thought about it. As soon as I said it out loud, you know, it's like all of our fears. When we say them out loud to someone else, we realize maybe that's not my finest thought process.
Right. But isn't that great to express it?
Yeah.
To somebody else so they can shed a different light on it.
Exactly.
And then you're thinking, oh yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
True.
Because now I'm like, damn right, that's my book in the 99¢. 1,000 people are going to buy it at the dollar store now.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me anymore at all.
It reaches more hands that way. Exactly. Because if it's just on the bookshelf in the area for whatever type of genre book it is, you know, people stand there. I do this. I love to go in bookstores because I like the smell.
I do too.
But you know, it's like you stand there and you stare and you look and you pick up a couple. But I think I would spend more time looking at the sale books than I do at the ones that are on the racks.
I do too.
Yeah. So we're throwing that excuse out the window for anybody else who feels that way. It's gone.
If you're afraid of it's not called the loser's bench. It's not that. That's my own name for it. No one else has called it that before.
It's called the opportunity to get your stuff in more people's hands bin.
Yep. That's it.
I love that. So, and you work with like a lot of different people. So there's not you're not just solely working with women who are in a self-help or coaching industry, just because these two books are that specific genre.
Just recently opened in February, our first new edition, and that is the children's book division with the publication of Ferdinand Finds a Friend, and there are 3 books this summer that are adorable, and I can't wait for everybody to see them.
I know, love Debbie.
Yes.
Love Debbie, and she lives here with me, and we actually did a little vision workshop a couple years ago, and that's how her and I met, because she came to my house.
Nice.
So now I can say, you know, she's like a very popular author of children's books.
Yeah, she really is. I mean, she's in dozens of schools now.
Oh my gosh. Well, she comes from an education background.
Yes, she does. Yeah.
And so she's got her little connections, but I have never seen somebody like live the marketing the way that she does.
Yes, she has.
It is incredible.
I told her she did it. It's just crazy to see how successful she's been.
Oh my God, on Instagram, she's got Ferdinand with her every freaking where she goes, like literally. And now she's got like stories from children this at the schools that she's gone to read the story, and they have the discussion and everything. And she's been sharing some of the comments from kids, which is so cool. Exactly. She's like kicking ass for real. I'm gonna have to give her a shout out for this video, because we're sitting here promoting Debbie Appelman, by the way. Ferdinand Finds a Friend, and he's going to have some little cohorts here pretty soon too. It's so exciting. And she's doing not to promote other stuff, but I know that she's helping with some coaching in the children's book realm now too, which is really neat that it expands. You never know where this stuff will take you. You put a book out there. What are the benefits of writing a book? Why don't you fill us in?
Benefits of writing a book. For an entrepreneur, the benefits are instant credibility. Like instantly you're going to be seen as an expert, because you are. If you have a message that you can write down and teach people something, then you are a credible expert. The second one is the residual income stream. Like I mentioned before, once that book is out there, that makes money for you forever. I don't want to step on any toes, but faster than any MLM will ever do for you, unless you're on the ground floor. Those are 2 things. The third thing is most of the speaking events where you'd get paid, they require you to be a published author. A lot of them do now. So if you want to start a speaking career, being published is super important, and it needs to be your own story. It's good to be in a collaboration or be part of it in that way, but it needs to be your own story.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like for me, since writing anything was never on my radar, being in a collaboration, if you want to get your feet wet and kind of dip your toe in the pool, that's a good way to kind of do it and get the feel for how it works if you're feeling like scared about writing an entire book. Well, this has been really awesome. We even touched on stuff that we didn't touch on in the first interview. So I know you've got tons of free resources.
I do.
Yes, so share that.
www.scorpio.press. And you can get in our Writers Guild, and I have a challenge starting on April 16th. It's basically a month worth of book coaching with me in a group, and we're going to have a ton of fun. So
yes, I've been seeing promotion.
Yeah.
So links to the group and to Kelly's website and information will all be on my website at CherriseBoucher.com/The Inspire View Series 2017. So super easy to find and connect with Kelly there via her website or on Facebook.
Got it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's been good to see you.
Till later.
Bye.
Bye.